Hello, hello. Once again, we are back with another episode of the Hungry Bleak podcast. It was pretty dark and gloomy a few minutes ago. All of a sudden the sun just came out. So that's a good sign, right? Awesome. Okay, so today's episode, very excited. Pretty awesome. Um we are going to have on incredible writer, creative artist, just a genuine human being. Like that's the thing about these conversations. Um is that they're just really cool conversations with I love low key people and the way they vibe and their energy. And when they start speaking about something that they're positive about or that's a passion to them, they just you can see all the energy like just come out of the person. I think it's awesome. And seeing this person who is pretty chill, laid back, kind of quiet and reserved, but when you hit on the topic that she's into, you just feel this burst of like every like energy possible. It's awesome. Uh, Actually, come to think of it, last time I was out, like because, since we are in these Rona times, um, in New York was after a show. Was having dinner with a bunch of people, and one of them was today's guest. That was almost a year ago. Wow, and the food was banging. This is my ramen buddy. This is the dumpling aficionado. This is my Final Fantasy plug. Like I've played one Final Fantasy game. If I want any information on them, I'm going to ask this individual because this is the person. Just incredible being, just genuine, uh, and just a really cool person. One of the things I always notice about her is when it's really cold, she is bundled up to the ninth degree. I've never seen anyone bundled up this much. And always seeing her wear two hoods for some reason. I don't know why. It makes me chuckle a little bit, and I don't know. It's just very silly. What have you? Uh, just another one of the best people possible, ladies and gentlemen, non-binary and gender fluid folks. This is Sha-Nee Williams.
Hi. And yes, I get cold very often. Like I get really cold.
The way you bundled up, like, and I've always noticed, and I'm like, because I don't wear two hoods because it feels awkward to me. I don't know why, but every time I
Mhm.
see you'll have on a hoodie, and then you have on your jacket that has an even bigger hood, and I'm like, I wonder if she puts both hoods on. Like I've always wanted to ask, but I'm like, that's such a dumb question. Don't ask that after we just had a really good meal. Don't ask that dumbness. Just keep going.
I
Um,
mean, sometimes I wear 3 if you count the coat
oh,
hoodie.
oh yeah, you're right. Oh my,
'Cause
yeah, I
it's
never thought about that.
like I don't dress in, like, thick hoodies, it's more like a really thin sweater, and then it's
Hmm.
the thick sweater, and then I'm all bundled up, and that's how I am. It's like I just get really cold. I am the opposite of my fiancé. He's very hot-blooded, like, he
Hmm.
gets really hot, even when it's, pretty cool in my room or pretty cool anywhere we are, he's still hot. I don't know how, but he is still hot. I am just really cold.
Does he radiate the heat? Do you feel it coming off of him?
Oh, yeah, I hug him all the time just for that.
Oh wow, wow,
No, I
wow,
hug him because he's a teddy bear, but
wow,
every time I do hug him, he's like, "You're ciphering my heat, aren't you?" Like, "Yes, love you."
wow. Well, because
He loves it though.
when we were at dinner that last time,
Mhm.
like every time I see, like I always look to see how like you're layering. Like I didn't really do layering until I got into like my 30s maybe or something like that. What have you?
Mhm.
Started wearing like a tank top, like maybe a light thermal underneath, a t-shirt, hoodie, what have you.
Yeah.
I started doing like that. You come out strong with the layering,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yo, she's really and then we get outside, and then you throw the hood up, and I'm like, she's so ready. She saw that wind coming
Listen,
up from a mile
man.
away. She is
I
ready,
love hoodies. I just love hoodies, whether
ready.
it's zipped or like the hoodies without the zipper or the
Hmm.
zipper. Like I just love them. But I think I got that from my grandmother because she always instilled in my sister and myself to always, bundle up for the weather,
Yeah.
especially since I get sick easily.
Oh, so yeah, you
So
definitely have to.
yeah, and I'm asthmatic. So I have to be very careful with how I dress, unless I'm just going downstairs. 'Cause I live in an apartment building, but in case I have to like go downstairs to throw trash out, go downstairs to meet my sister for groceries during the Rona
Mhm.
times, I would like just put on my sweater
Yeah.
with the two sweater thing and not a
Mhm.
coat, just run down, get what I need to get, and come back upstairs and help my mom sort all the stuff out. But
Mhm.
I think it kind of like it kind of came from my grandmother and my mom, because every time we do go out, we always have to bundle up, or we have to bundle up enough where it's not too layer, like it's not uncomfortable, but it's
Mhm.
comfortable enough for us to still stay warm and go ahead and do what we need to do. Especially since I'm like, out of the two of us, I'm the one that gets sick very often if I don't, bundle up and everything.
Mhm.
So I think, like, on a short tangent, I remember when I had the flu. It was just years and years ago, but when I had the flu, it was a scary time because of me being asthmatic, and it
Mhm.
was I'm not a like, how there's different layers to having a breathing condition like that,
Yeah.
where you have severe asthmatics, then you have moderate, then you have like those that have it really light. I'm
Mhm.
the moderate because I came from that severe when I was younger. So as I got older, it became moderate and more controlled. But when I
Wow.
caught the flu or a cold, I always have to kind of like double down on vitamin, double down on like my humidifier, my nebulizer, all these things.
Mm.
So I'm like, yeah, let's avoid these and bundle up. Even though I
Well,
bundled up before then, but that's when
yeah.
people didn't want to like cover their mouths or cover their mouth when they
Yeah.
sneeze and stuff like that. That's how I would normally catch a flu or a cold. So, it's just bundling up is one of the safest ways to not get sick.
Like, that's something I've always noticed, like, myself, like, when I used to not like, a pullover hoodie
Mhm.
because I felt confined, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started wearing zip-up hoodies so I could, if I had to, I could just take it off easily, whatever, or if I'm going out to eat,
Right.
I take it off, I don't wanna pull it over my head and be all
Yeah. The
tangled up
zipper
in it and
ones are
everything.
much safer. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the last couple years, I think I bought, like, 2 pullover actually, 1, 2 yeah, like, 2 pullover hoodies, which I never did, and I was like, "You know what?" Like, sometimes, like, when I'm home and it's this time of year or it's just cold enough, like, I'll just have on a tank top and I'll just put on the pullover hoodie and I'm good. So if
Mhm.
I go take out the trash or if I just go to take a walk in the park, like,
Yeah,
I'm
because 'cause
I'm
you're
I'm good.
home, you're in your
Yeah,
local. So, but when you
yeah,
go out, you need something that's easier for you to take off so
yeah,
that we can be comfortable, especially depending on whatever environment you're going into, whatever establishment you're going into, you don't know
exactly.
what their temperature is inside.
Mhm.
Because I know for me, my room gets very, very hot. So
Oh,
I have to either put on the AC during the winter, like the weather, the not the
really?
weather, but the temperature in this apartment building, like they don't know what's really hot, and then when they turn off the heat, it's really cold. So it's like on and off. Yeah, it's a weird apartment building, but
Oh,
it's
wow.
like on and off. So it's like I would have to open up the window, but then because it's so hot in here, if I have to go outside, I have to layer, so I'm sweating as I'm trying
Mhm.
to get, like, the last minute things before I leave, and then when I'm outside, it's, like, super cold, and it's like,
Yeah,
"Whoa, okay, good thing." I mean, granted, I had to sweat and all that while I'm getting the last thing out, but you know what? I'm glad
but
I have
still.
these on, because
Yeah,
when you go outside, it's super cold. So it's like,
and that cold hitting the sweat and the just
yeah, so it's like,
and that's not a good way to do it either.
yeah, exactly.
Alright,
But
so today's show was not about, hoodies or any of that stuff, I promise you. That was just a really just that's how these conversations go, as you've seen
yeah,
with earlier episodes.
so many tangents.
These are, like, episodes that just like, these are, like, the conversations that we would have when we
Mhm.
are out eating and talking. There will be, like, a central topic, but we'll kinda split off into other things. That's just the way natural flow of the conversations happen, and we always have such great fun and have big talks, what have you.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna try and just capture that again. You know what? I might do one where it's just a few of us as if we were at
Yeah.
a restaurant eating and just go from there.
That'll
But
be fine. I'll be
yeah.
happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, you know what, maybe in, the near future, hopefully, we'll actually be able to all get together in some way, shape, or form in person.
Yeah, from your mouth,
Hopefully.
to
Yeah,
the heavenly ears, you
yeah,
know?
hopefully. But Shanae, I want to ask you,
Yeah.
what is today's show about?
I'm gonna talk about Wonder
We're going to
Woman.
talk about, all right.
The
I think
wonder of the woman.
yes,
Woman of the wonder.
I had to wear this T-shirt for that. I haven't worn this T-shirt in a while, and I was like, you know what? I have a Wonder Woman T-shirt. I want to wear this one. I almost ran out this morning and went to go see if I could get one at Hot Topic real quick. Product placement of the cup, because I was like, oh, you know what? Let me go out, and then I didn't sleep. I slept in a weird way. I slept fully clothed. I hoodie, like everything I was wearing, jeans, sneakers, I still had on when
You
I
were
fell asleep.
ready. You were ready.
I fell asleep like that last night. Woke up this morning still fully clothed. I was like, oh wow, the hell.
Fully ready.
Yeah, so I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna find my t-shirt. So I found my t-shirt. I was like, okay, bet we're good. All right, so Wonder Woman, a lot going on with Wonder Woman right now. Between Wonder Woman 84, which just came out on Christmas.
Yep,
Was it?
Christmas
Yeah, Christmas
Day.
Day.
Christmas Day.
On yep on HBO Max, and also
Mhm.
simultaneously was released in theaters.
Right?
I think it might be on demand. I think too.
I think so.
Oh
I think Wonder Woman 84 is on HBO Max up until January 24th, which is
yeah.
4 days before my birthday, which
Oh wow.
yeah, if only I was able to see it again on my birthday, then that would have been nice. But I
Right.
seen it was the best Christmas gift ever. Thank you, my sister.
Yeah. And we also have with DC's Future State, we have
Mhm.
which is DC's near future event spinning out of Death
Dark
Metal.
Knight, yeah, Dark Knight Metal.
Yeah, Dark Knight Metal. Thank you.
Yeah,
And it's characters old, familiar, and also new characters taking over some of the mantles
right.
of some of our favorite characters, or I should say, some of our favorite like Batman,
Mhm.
Superman, and Wonder Woman as well. We're gonna be
Yes.
getting a couple titles with Wonder Woman. We have Wonder Woman, we have Immortal Wonder Woman,
Mhm.
Justice League,
Yep.
Superman, and Wonder Woman. I think there might be a
Yep.
fifth one too.
See,
I
I
think.
haven't I haven't really got into the new stuff yet, but I
Mhm.
know we know about Yara Flor, which is the
Yes.
Brazilian Wonder Woman. She's the most popular one right now.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. So I know with her, she's a different kind of Wonder Woman. I haven't read it yet. I know that Sasha Wood from Casually Comics, shout out to her, was talking about it, and she seems really, really interested in it. So I was like, the way she was talking about it, I was like, and then the way you were telling me about it, I was like, you know
Yeah,
what, I'm gonna check this out and see. Like, there's some key points she talked about, like her as a person, like her as Wonder Woman and everything. It's pretty funny. So I was like, all right, well, I'll check it out when I can.
I was definitely like, I was floored by the character designs first off.
Mhm.
So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I love seeing how characters are designed and and when they started, promoting the whole DC Future
Right.
um, event, the Future State event, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I saw the designs, I was like, okay. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing that they were new characters in these legacy roles, and I'm like, oh, oh. And then I saw this Wonder Woman, and I was like, oh, yes,
Yeah. She looks amazing.
she's amazing. And reading it was so you don't get her origin yet, so you don't
Right.
know where it's from. But I was like, okay, so this is what I'm because I want to read all of them, like all the first issues, and then see what I
Mhm.
want to follow. This was an instant. Within the first probably couple of pages, I was like, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Because of the way she spoke, because of the humor that was involved,
Right.
and just the overall feel. And I want to see how her and Diana interact.
Yeah.
I want to see
Yeah.
that. Like that's cool. I want to see how that happens because maybe it has something to do with where she came from in her origin and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I was like, yep. And I also want to see how her and the new Superman are going to react.
I'm actually pretty curious about that too, especially since her persona is a little different from Diana's. It's like it's kind of
Hmm.
on the opposite of Diana's. I think also when I was looking at the video about it, it pointed out that it actually touched base on one of the gods of the Brazilian mythos,
Yes.
of which I thought was pretty cool because it's like, okay, well, if you're gonna do a different Wonder Woman from a different place of life, a different walk of life, why don't you kind of put yourself in to the mythologies of that region,
Yes. Yes,
which
that
I thought it was a really nice touch that they did that. It was
yeah,
pretty cool.
that's actually really great point because that was one of the things that I really did. It just oh from because it was written by Joelle Jones, who
Mhm.
also did the inks as well. Um,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, and she did the pencils as well. She and the
She did the
colored
whole
by
9 yards
yeah,
apparently.
I'm
I love
telling
the art style. I love it.
you, it was colored by Jordi Belair,
Mhm.
who also did the cover along with Joelle Jones. Yeah, I'm like looking at the pages now again, and it's just
Yeah.
like seeing that first image of her in her armor and
Yeah.
the suit and her going after. I'm probably gonna end up reading this again because I think the monster that she like in the first couple of pages,
Right.
her introduction, like she's talking and I think she's hunting a hydra.
Right.
I want to say, and yeah, just awesome, just awesome stuff. This is a great time. I mean, every time is a great time to be a Wonder Woman fan, but this is
Right.
even a better time because this nugget right here that we're getting between uh, these Wonder Woman titles with DC
Mhm.
Future State, which is bringing her even more into the forefront, and then we get Wonder Woman 84, which was divisive for people.
Very
Uh,
divisive.
like I see both sides, but
Mhm.
I'm not tripping on it. Some people are
Right.
tripping on it. Some
Too hard.
people like tripping and falling down the stairs hard. Like you didn't
Yeah.
need to do all that. Like you're doing a little extra, especially when. And I understand people's passions for things. Obviously,
Right. Yeah.
them, but
Right.
rein it back a little bit. You know, rent's still due on the first, right? You know, you still got to go
Mhm.
to like. I understand the passion and such, but people getting into arguments online, which is why I kind of don't do social media as much as I used to, especially
Yeah. Right. Right. I only stay on Instagram for the pictures, like just watching other artists at work and see if how they and, I get motivated to work on my own art
oh yeah,
pieces from them and stuff like that. But Facebook I try to stay away from because it's too it's like welcome to the jungle type of thing where it's
it's
like
not.
everybody's kind of at their throats and stuff.
Yeah,
So
and now more so than before because everybody's inside, so they got nothing to do but think.
mhm.
And people are thinking, and they're getting to a point where like, oh, you know what? Yeah, this is what, and it's a good place. Then they start thinking a little too extra, and then it becomes this,
Mhm.
what have you. But we're
I'm
gonna keep it nice and positive
Yeah,
here today.
right, and I think for me, I love the movie,
Hmm.
and I said one thing about it where it's like, "I love this movie, best Christmas ever, thank you, sister," and that was it. I kinda just left it at that, and
Right.
I kept why I love the movie in my close circle of friends that I know
Hmm.
that I'm gonna have a respectable conversation with,
Right.
but, so far from me, I've seen a lot of people not liking it, but they're giving their reasons, but they're not being disrespectful about it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They're still opening that space of like, okay, tell me why you like it. I'll tell you why I don't like it. So they're kind of being respectful to each other. And I like that because recently, not recently, but just in the following years, even before all this craziness in the world that's happening now, um, a lot of people didn't really know how to debate. A lot of people don't really know how to have conversation, whether they agree or disagree and stuff like that. So just seeing that, it really is cool. The stuff I try to stay away from is people that make why I don't like this movie on YouTube because there's way too much negativity
Mm.
on some of these videos. Like I don't watch them because it kind of disheartens me as someone that does like it, and it's like, I already heard why people don't like it. Like they're saying the same reasons, but they're
Hmm.
going about it in a very um in a way where it's not very what's the word? The word is escaping me. It's not
Where it's
very
not
proactive. Right.
right,
Where
where it's not
like
critical. That it's not constructive criticism.
right,
It's just criticism and not having anything behind it. Like you're just spewing your
right.
negativity. Yes, which is
Right, because like
yeah,
just this morning, like when you're watching a certain thing on YouTube, something else pops up that you might like
yeah.
and stuff. So it was I don't know the channel, but I seen the thumbnail and I guess it's somebody reviewing the movie because then they reviewed Soul, and I didn't watch their videos, but their video popped up on my feed,
Mhm.
and I just saw the thumbnail, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to watch this video because the way the thumbnail was, where he has the picture, like the promotion picture for 84, and then he was like,
Right.
the Wonder Woman 84 is trash, and like it's a lot of videos like that, and it's like I don't want to watch that. And that's
Exactly.
somebody. This is coming from somebody that really loves this movie, and like I said, I understand. I can respect and I understand why people don't like it, and I see why people are just like meh for it. Like it's like to them, this movie was dry, and I understand why people like it,
Mm,
and I respect all of that. So I'm not gonna call anybody out. I'm not gonna. That's not my style. That's not how
mm,
I do things. As someone that's into like comics and video games and stuff like that. Like, oh, if you don't like this, then you're such and such, or if you like this, because I don't, if you like this, then you're such. Like, I'm not going to do that. So I
no,
respect everyone's opinions and stuff. So I can see where people were going when they said they didn't like certain parts of the movie. I can see that. But it didn't bother me, to be honest, because I feel like this past year was very crazy for everybody.
mm,
It affected people more than others. It affected me mentally, and I went through some stuff mentally and stuff. So by me watching that, my fiance and I were watching it. So by me watching it, it just took me out of that element. It took me out of the reality of what's happening around me and what's happening in the world. It just put me in another world. It put me in her world. It put me in just like 2 hours and a half of just watching Wonder Woman doing her thing, Diana being Diana, like you're really exploring that side of her because, she's not just Wonder Woman, but she's a woman,
mhm.
so it's just it helped me and I really enjoyed it because it just took me out of that whole um thing of what was happening with me and then what was happening with the world burning and everything.
No, no,
So, it
you're totally
was
right.
yeah, so I know that was one of the complaints for the movie was that it was too long, but I was like, I didn't mind it at all. It didn't feel like 2.5 hours to me.
Too long. No, nobody was saying that with Endgame. Like nobody was saying that, and that's no shade to those movies as well. But I mean, them long. I mean, have you
I
ever
mean, that
watched The
movie was
Godfather?
long. Yeah, like that movie was long.
Like those movies
And
are
and
long
the
as
thing is
hell.
with Endgame had a couple of plot holes too that people are just
Yeah,
now finding out like years later.
yeah.
But with this movie, it didn't feel like 2 hours and a half. It's because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the thing is that people
Mhm,
have to enjoy it for what it is. Like, look, we got this movie. It's a colorful movie, something that DC isn't really known for their live action movies,
mhm.
besides Wonder Woman, because you only have what three that was super colorful, and that was Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman. And not many people are talking about Shazam. And Shazam was actually a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it.
Shazam was really good. It's not what I thought it was gonna be,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's
It
not
was
a character
actually
that I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta see it." I was like, "I wanna see this so I can see what's going on.
mhm,
I wanna stay up in the know." And I
right.
enjoyed it. I was like, "Okay, yeah, this was a fun family mo," and the ending I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
But so
like
that
it
was
was just it
cool,
was
you know what I
fun
mean?
to watch. And then
Yeah.
Aquaman had its moments too. But I really did like it. 2017 Wonder Woman was my movie. Like I love it. I
Ooh,
brought the DVD. I watched it like 50 million times. Like I have the theme song as my ringtone. I love it.
okay.
It's probably going to be the same way if Storm ever gets her own movie. It'll probably be the same way. I just pray that it's a really good movie if they ever decide to make a Storm movie.
Mhm,
Um, but 84 was really I guess it was really special for me because I can put both of those films together. I guess it was special for me because of the whole thing with COVID and how it affected everybody mentally, physically, everything. And just
mhm,
to like watch something that was entertaining, that was fun, it took me out of that element to enjoy that. And I took the movie for what it was. And the movie is not taking itself too seriously. If people really remember the Wonder Woman comics and how campy it was, and then, Wonder Woman did have a dry spell for like the 70s. if I remember correctly, from just watching documentaries about it, because I was born in the 80s, so I wasn't
Right.
around during the 70s.
Mhm.
But in the 70s, it was said that she had a dry spell where she lost her powers. She did some obscure jobs, and like while
Yeah.
she was here, like she went through a lot of these things, and she didn't have powers. So, it's gonna be obscure. And then on top of that, the movie itself is in the 80s, and I was born in the late 80s. But from what my sister tells me and my mom tells me, is that the 80s was always like just colorful and always
You Mhm.
like all over the place and stuff. I mean, I was just a baby. So
Yeah.
so I
It
wouldn't know, but
like 84. My opinion on it is I enjoyed it for what it was because I knew it
mhm.
wasn't gonna be as action-packed as
Right.
the first movie. The first
Yeah.
movie, I loved it. Oh my god. I saw it like
Because it was a
I
great
think I watched like
introduction of her.
yeah, I think I saw it like 4 times. But people
Mhm.
also have to remember that it was somewhere action-packed because it was also set during a war,
Right.
literally during a war,
Right.
in the
Yes, yes,
middle of a
yes.
literal world war.
War, yeah, that actually took place in
Yeah,
real life.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I can understand when people not want it because comic book movies, you want action, you want all this, and you want there to be these epic battles between two superpowered beings.
Mhm.
And I've always wanted to see. There were two characters that I always wanted to see have like epic battles, like not together, but just in their own respective worlds.
Right. Mhm.
One was Wonder Woman, and the other one is Captain Marvel.
Oh, yes.
Because they're so strong, and to see
Right.
two incredibly superpowered women just battling it out and what
Mhm.
have you, having these big epic fights that we've always seen men have. I
Right.
always want to see that. So I knew the movie wasn't going to be as action packed. And when I saw people's reviews of it, and I was like, okay, fine, let me just
Yeah.
go ahead and watch. So I watched it that night, and I enjoyed it. I understood some people's gripes about it, and I understood when people started pointing out some certain plot holes. I was like, okay, that's problematic, and I understand that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, my this is the thing that I didn't like about the movie,
Yeah.
and it's something silly, but it's something that I noticed. Again, silly, but I noticed it.
Right.
But it felt right in the context of the movie because it's the 80s.
Right. Right.
Was her theme.
Mhm.
It felt almost watered down like the 80s.
Right.
It didn't feel as strong because when you hear, and I also love watching, I forget the musician's name when she's actually playing it. I forgot what her
Um.
name is, but I watched the video of her playing because I wanted to see. And
Oh,
I
was she at the violin?
yes, yes.
I think her name was like Tina Gow.
Is it
Tina
okay?
Gow, I think it is. Because
Wow.
like she had like, and then she was like had clay on her and like
Yeah,
so like yeah, okay, yeah.
watching it was amazing. I was like, oh my god, it was so interesting because I
Mhm.
I don't play an instrument. I played clarinet years ago. That's it.
Right. Flute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We, and this is the woodwind section right here. And this is the woodwind section right here. You
Yes.
got to keep that reed wet. Keep that reed wet. Keep that reed wet. But
And your armature up.
yeah, definitely. But seeing her play it, and you see this instrument, and you don't think all this is going to come out of it,
Right.
and it does. And I'm like, oh my god! So that theme was my ringtone for a minute. It
Mhm.
was
It's still my
also
ringtone.
it was also my text alerts for a minute.
Yeah.
I like to switch off just because, like, same thing with my wallpaper, just like to switch off.
I
But
just love the theme. It's there
I
forever
love
until I
it
find something better.
because that iconic moment in
Mhm.
Batman v Superman when
Yeah.
she finally shows up and you hear it, like you've heard it throughout the movie, but you don't really pay attention to it because it's been like the little bit lingering.
Yeah, but
When
when
you
she
hear it
comes
so
in, it's like
fast,
"Dun, dun, dun, dun." I
that was
think, to
one
be
of the
honest
biggest
with you,
debuts ever.
after that whole movie, I feel like that was the best part. I remember sitting there with
Yeah,
my fiance, and we was just I think we were with other people too. We was like it was a small group of us, and we was sitting there, and we're like, "Okay, that's a plot." I mean, that doesn't make any sense, and, like, the only
yeah.
thing I was looking forward to was just seeing Diana, right? So, 'cause I was thrilled about the movie itself because it's Batman v Superman, but my first concerns was,
Mhm.
well, we all know about Batman. Okay, then that's out the window. We already know his story. We know all this.
Mhm.
But it was too early to bring in Batman v Superman. It was too early. And I felt like they should have developed Clark more, especially like the way that they were going with Man of Steel. Like I'm one of those
Mhm.
few people that actually do like Man of Steel. I do have my gripes with it, but I like it overall.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel like they brought that in too early, and I felt like they should have evolved Clark a little bit more, like have him have his own adventures or have him deal with the repercussions of what happened to the city when he
Mhm.
was fighting Zod and all that instead of just bringing Batman in. But while I was watching it, I'm like, now I know people said that Wonder Woman was mad to them, but Batman v Superman, a lot of people didn't like that movie either. But I'm like,
Yeah.
but once she came in, that was the only highlight. Like I saw her come in. We see her trailing around doing Wonder Woman things without us knowing. I mean, without the movie knowing it's Wonder Woman. But
Right.
once she came in with that shield and not
Mhm.
the shield, but with her gauntlets and stuff
The
like
gauntlets.
that, I'm like the way she came out and then her music played. I'm like, yes, I remember being in the movie theater and people stood up clapping. I mean, I clapped, but I sat down. But I was clapping, but people were clapping because they were waiting for her.
Wait, wasn't it me, you, Takia,
Yes,
David, and
actually,
Robbie
probably
in
it was. Yeah, like I
in
know it was a
Harlem?
group of us. I just didn't remember like who. I think it was us
Because we
that
went
we
to
all
Starbucks
came there.
beforehand because we were early,
Yes.
and then
Okay.
we went
Yes.
back to the theater. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Because
it
it
was
was
like you
Magic
can
Johnson
tell it
theater, I
was
think
years
it was.
ago. It was years ago.
Yeah.
That sounds like I don't remember. Like I remember we were with a group of people. I just don't
Mhm.
remember like because you always kind of cipher through because everybody wants to see movies at
Yep.
different times and stuff like that. And I remember that because everybody like literally got up. And I think all
Everybody
of us
cheered.
sat down, like all of us just stayed sat
Yeah.
down, but we were clapping so hard.
Well, this was my second. Well, that was my second time seeing the movie. I had saw it
Mhm.
earlier that week,
Right. Okay. Yes, I
and so I
remember that.
watched it. So I wanted to see what everybody's reaction was going to be because when I
Yeah.
usually go to movies, it's a matinee, so there's maybe like five
Right.
people, seven people in the theater.
That sounds like
You're
the
not
best
going to
time
get
to go
that
to the movies. Yeah.
because there's not a lot of people there. It's cheaper, what have you. So
Yep.
it was a reaction, but not as big. Um, so when I went to go see that with them, when there were more people, I wanted to see what that reaction was going to be. I didn't expect the amount, and it's Harlem. It's Harlem. This is Harlem.
Harlem.
Where we're at is Harlem, and it's the
Make
Mansion.
sure make sure you emphasize that it's
I
Harlem.
don't know if I told y'all, but it's Harlem. Now, Harlem, black folks, black people.
Yes.
The when I didn't expect that to get that cheer from black people. They was like, "Oh my god!" And it was and I was
Yes.
like, "That's that's a star making moment. That's a moment
Right. And this
like
came
that."
around the time that people weren't very sure about Gal Gadot being Wonder Woman because she
Yes,
was
yeah.
so small in
Mhm,
stature. Me, I was fine with it because you know what? We're humans. We can gain the weight and build it into muscle.
mhm.
Especially if you look at stars like Christian Bale, like he lost weight
Yeah, he's
for a
always
certain
changing.
role. For Batman, he gained a lot of weight to build
Mhm.
into muscle. For another role, he gained a lot of I think he played Dick Cheney on one of those
Yeah,
political movies. Like
yeah,
he gained a lot of weight for that role. So
yeah.
it's the amount of dedication. And the thing is that people don't realize like yeah, she was small in stature, but this girl
But her
worked out.
presence was good too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she worked out, and not only did she worked out with bodybuilders, she worked out with athletes, she worked out with
Mhm.
people that are like models, but they're like Sports Illustrated models, the ones that work
Yeah.
out. So
Mhm.
she's with those people motivate her to work out. And
Yeah.
all those people are the Amazons. Like literally, those are the
Yeah.
women that worked out for these roles, but they was already working out and super fit beforehand. And
Mhm.
then you had actors that came in and they wanted to get fit because they knew that they were playing the role of an Amazon. So
Mhm.
I think I have the DVD where they were going off about that, where they was like, we came in and they'd have us do this rigorous training, and you kind of have that Amazon mindset. Why? Because Amazons are warriors. You always have
Exactly.
to be on, you have to be on par. You have to like really be ready because you're
Mhm.
on standby because it's a paradise island, nothing is happening, but you always have to be on standby in case something happens. Like, yeah, granted, there are Amazons there that don't do fighting as much. I think some of it is said in the comics where not a lot. There's a small amount of Amazons that don't do fighting because they deal with medicine.
Yep,
They deal
teachers.
with their teachers. They
Yeah,
deal with I mean, Diana was the only child, so there's no need for preschool teachers or anything like that. But
exactly.
they had other roles,
Hmm. Because
and
it's like any other society. You can't have
right.
all hunters.
Right, without
Because
any
what?
type
Well,
of people,
exactly.
like,
You need a
without any
mixture.
other roles to kind of support that, you know what
Exactly.
I
You
mean?
need to have different roles in society. It's not like they were all
Right,
just standing there with swords. Like, so I
right.
guess.
I mean, granted, they probably did have some training to defend themselves,
Oh yeah, of
but
course. Yeah.
not to the point of the other Amazons, going through training every day, preparing for the games all the time when there is an emissary to be needed to go out into the
Exactly.
world to
Hmm.
represent them and who they are and all of that. So, I feel like a lot of people didn't really give this movie any slack because they were expecting a lot because of the first movie.
Hmm.
And I feel like I understood the story. Not many people didn't understand the story either, which is kind of interesting because when I watched it, like I understood from the very beginning, like what this movie was going to start off as. Like
Hmm.
in the beginning, they had young Diana go through these games, and spoiler alert, she cheated. And it's
Hmm.
just the way that a lot of the lessons in this movie. There's two lessons, right? Don't be careful what you wish for. That's one. And then
Hmm.
two, don't expect an easy road in life in terms of like doing your goals or getting rich or anything like that. Because if you rely on that and you're doing like quick schemes to get up to the top really quick, there's going to be consequences. You're going to fall because you
Hmm.
didn't properly build that foundation to get to where you are. And I think that's where the whole thing about the 80s was the whole thing about the 80s from my understanding and from what
Yes.
my family, well, at least my mom and my sister told me. Well, my sister was a kid,
Mm.
but from an adult perspective, what my mom told me is that, during the 80s, it's always about products. It was capitalist, like
Yes.
capitalism at its core in
Yeah.
the 80s. So,
80s was
I
also was all about excess. Was also about more
right.
money, money, more money. That's what
Mhm.
it was all
And not the
about.
quality of it. So,
Exactly.
I feel like that's where people kind of forget about that in a
Hmm.
way in terms of the story. And then they had like certain points. Like, yeah, there were like a little bit of plot holes, yes. But there's certain points in the movie where they say that they didn't understand it. I was like, well, I mean, technically the villain was a god in a way, it's just he didn't show himself.
Hmm.
Because I forgot what the god was, but it was like the god of wishes. And every time you wish
Yes.
something, you get like you sacrifice a bit of yourself or you sacrifice something that you hold dear
Mhm.
in order to make this wish. And this Pascal, what is his last name? His name escapes me.
Pedro.
Pedro, right? Okay, so
Pascal.
Pascal Pedro, he
Oh no,
played
no,
he
no,
played a really good.
Pedro Pascal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, so we're
All
just
good.
like going back and forth. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, I'm sorry, but he played a really good role,
Hmm.
and just that I feel like he just wanted to provide for his son, and then you see where he was abused as a kid, and he was just trying to get out of the life that he was in, and then he didn't want to have that same thing for his son. And I feel like that's where Wonder Woman hits the most is like you feel these backstories of these people, of these villains. Even Ares had a small backstory towards the end where you was like, okay, well, he had a gripe with his pops and he didn't like humankind because of it.
Right.
And that was it. But with Maxwell Lord, he did have some kind of story that you felt bad for him. Like, especially in an environment that's the 80s where it's very access, like you said, access to money and everything like that. He was a product of it where he was just trying to like do all of these money schemes to just try and make money to not only be successful but to also provide for his son. So you understood that. Then you understand Barbara Ann Minerva. I actually like the way she looks as Cheetah. I feel like they got a little better in the FX department aside from
Hmm.
Ares because like that was a step up from Ares.
Yeah.
I feel personally, but the way that they have her, I mean, it was fine because you were. I can see where that plot is, where it's like, okay, well, she's she feels this way. She's like getting bullied. And in the 80s, people with glasses, they get bullied
Exactly.
because, of the whole smarts and the dorky things that they like and all that. So they always get picked on by the cool kids. Like this whole movie was just 80-esque.
Yeah. So
And
there was a lot of stuff that you, because even like nerds and stuff like that say like that. Like it's not like how it is now.
yeah, it's not like how we're accepted and all this stuff
Exactly.
now.
And how we're like the ones, oh, well, let's go after,
Mm,
let's see what they like and let's start putting it out there. No, this is
right.
the 80s where you had movies like, you know, just about every 80s,
Revenge of the Nerds.
exactly, like teenage high school movie
Angst.
was
Mhm.
about somehow the nerd coming out on top and having to go through bullies and how they ended up
Mhm.
getting like the captain of the football team or the cheerleader or what have you, like getting
Mhm.
that was an attainable goal.
I mean, you had like Family Matters too. Like that it ran from like the late 80s up into like mid to late 90s, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Mhm.
Because that's a show I grew up on. And
Mhm.
just to see Steve Urkel being bullied, but then he still has that confidence and he still does whatever the hell he wants to
Yeah,
do.
that's
No
right.
matter how much bullied he is, like he was MVP. I think that's why they made him the star of the show. Because there
Yeah,
was so many people that did relate to him because he did have that confidence. He didn't let anyone push him around. I
yeah.
mean, he kind of did, but in terms of like he knows his morals. He knows what's right and what's wrong, right? So
Mhm.
he doesn't fall prey to that. But in for Barbara Ann, she just was tired of being tripped over. She's tired of being ignored,
Mhm.
especially on her first day of the job where nobody didn't even give her enough respect to say hello, to shake her hand.
Yep, didn't
You
care.
know, they didn't care. And, in corporate America today, I guess, I don't know, it's been a while, but,
Mm.
well, it's not even corporate America, but it's just in
Just
today's
America.
society.
Yeah.
Yeah, in today's society, you should people do say hello, how you doing, and then they shake hands because it's a proper way. It's manners. It's
Mhm.
just showing that person human decency, right? So they didn't show her any of that. Only Diana did. Um, and I guess at that point, because someone like Diana in her stature, she's like, okay, I want to be someone like this. Like she's easily is like inspired by that. Whereas like I want to be strong, I want to be beautiful. You're already beautiful. Like, come
Mhm.
on, you're Christian Wig. So
Yeah.
you're already beautiful. But
But it's
um
even worse for women at
yeah.
that point.
So
If
it's
you are
like
a smart, brilliant woman who is at
mhm,
top in your field and
mhm,
you're new and you don't look like what at the 80s at that time. It's funny how
right,
the standards are so different from the 80s to what they are now. It's so
right.
different. Not being that, yeah. And then you see Diana walk in with this, not even just a physical, but just her aura,
Her
her
grace.
strength,
Yeah, the
her
stature of her.
grace, stature,
Yeah.
yes. Walking
Mhm.
in, she's been there, she knows it, but you can't judge your road by where someone else's road because you don't know where Diana's been
Right.
for a long time. Literally,
Yeah.
she's like immortal,
Yeah.
you know.
And she learned a lot. Like when she first came to man's world, she had the most severe naivete ever,
Mhm.
and it shows that they got that from the books because she was very naive in the books too.
Yeah.
Um, and then it kind of goes into the fact that eventually, it's like, oh, I want to be like Diana. I wish to be Diana, and then the confidence comes in, and then the confidence doesn't just stay there. It doesn't just stop right there. It
Hmm.
went from there into like her wanting to keep this power, her wanting to, feel stronger and stronger. Um, I think it was a creative way to bring in Cheetah.
Hmm.
Um, and I knew they were going to take that power away, which is fine because I feel like they open because since she's still alive and she turned back
Yes.
into Barbara Ann. Spoiler alert! Sorry, guys. Uh,
Hmm.
I feel like they opened that door for her to come back. You know what I mean? Especially since she had a more permanent way of staying as Cheetah, um, until a certain thing comes around where she can go back to being Barbara Ann, and you kind of like that's when she really learns her hard lessons through that. And then I feel like through there, that's when the whole dynamic of Barbara Ann and Diana would shift because of, the whole thing. But I felt like They were a little too harsh with that one. Like I really liked the fight between Wonder Woman and Cheetah. I like that fight.
Mhm.
But I feel like people don't realize that this movie is more about Diana, not so much about Wonder Woman. Like you've seen Wonder Woman in the first movie because, you know, it's like what you said. She's in a war. She's coming during
Mm.
wartime. So she's showing everybody her abilities because she was always denied to show them. Steve kept denying it up until No Man's Land. Her
Mm.
mother didn't want to leave the island because of Hades, because of Ares. I said Hades because of
Mhm.
Ares. Um, you know, it's like people were so they were doubting her because they love her and not doubting her, but you know, they were trying to keep her away from things because they love
They
her
were trying to
and they
shield her
want to
from everything.
they want yeah, thank you. They were trying to shield her, but you know, she has to grow. Like how else are you going to grow if you're not leaving from that place? That
Mhm.
place that's stagnant, you know.
Exactly.
So up
And
until
it's
No
all
Man's Land, Steve was like, okay.
mhm.
She held her own. And everybody knows. But after the whole loss of Steve, and then I like how in the beginning of the movie they kind of touch base on what happened to everybody else. Everybody else died little by little. I think Etta Candy was the last survivor, and then eventually she passed away.
Mhm.
So, you know, it I feel like people don't look at that either because the movie was more focused on Diana and her getting used to being alone, getting used to the idea of her being immortal
Exactly.
because her friends are gone, Steve is gone. She she never really went out with anybody. She only dined out by herself. She only went to work, did Wonder Woman things. Like she was Batman-esque with that, but in daytime, like she just
Mhm.
ran, saved people, and then ran off.
Yeah.
Like she would like cut off the camera so that way nobody sees her face. And like she was doing all of that. But you know, she at the end, at the core, she was dealing with loss, and it wasn't a healthy way of how she was dealing with it.
Mm.
And you know, a lot of people do the same thing that she does. Like once a loved one dies or a group of friends die, you're by yourself.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like you're by yourself. You don't want to make new connections because you're afraid of losing those connections, like how you lost your first connections.
And you also
So
don't wanna have that free time to think about that loss. So, you
mhm,
work a lot,
mhm,
find, like, random hobbies, like building a ship in a bottle or whatever the hell it is you do.
right,
You're going to the gym a lot, you're working out, stuff like that. So,
right,
this is the first time that we've seen, um, them 2 different people, Diana
right,
and Wonder Woman. In the movie,
right,
like you were saying, excuse me, in the first movie, Wonder Woman, we just saw Wonder Woman.
right.
There wasn't that duality, where this one, I mean, that's a great aspect and a great point that you pointed out. Her finally, seeing that there's 2 sides, having the one doing, the work stuff, what have you, and the Wonder Woman thing,
Mhm.
then losing the first love,
Her
as
very
far
first love.
yeah,
Yeah.
her first love
Mhm.
in life. I mean, her first love that we know of as far as man's world could
Right.
could be someone on Themyscira, but
Yeah, it could have
still
been.
having
Yeah.
that, but maybe never losing someone dying like that,
Yeah. In
and
front of her.
sacrificing himself for you, saying, "I can save today, but you can
You
save
can save the
the world."
world. Yeah.
That's a lot to put. That's like
Mhm.
a Uncle Ben,
Yeah.
power
Yeah.
responsibility type of
Right,
moment for you.
right. Yeah.
And who else could go across no man's land? It says no
Mhm.
man's land.
Right. Now who else but
Who
a
else
woman can do it? You
who
know
else
what I
could
mean?
cross that? So,
Yeah.
but that yeah, I didn't even think about that fact of that duality. Like,
I kind of saw it. Like I saw it. The thing is, when I look for character progression in movies, I started doing that because again, quarantine it gives you a full time. So while
mhm,
you're watching YouTube channels like The Take, you're watching YouTube channels like Cinema Therapy, and I watch those, and those are very, very informative, and those are
mhm,
very like um insightful. That's the word I
mhm,
was looking for. It was very insightful. Where it's like, okay, well, you're thinking, and I've been watching The Take before the pandemic happened, and Cinema Therapy I just kind of came across last year. Really good channels. But you have to kind of think of the characters and how us as people, the viewers, relate to those characters. And I feel like, okay, we're not alive forever. We're not immortal. But we all know from different movies, shows, books, all of these things that are available to us to read and to entertain ourselves with. We know the story of immortality, where eventually it become lonely. And people
Mm,
don't, those who are immoral do not want to go ahead and keep living and meeting new people because they know they're going to die out. They know they're going to die. They don't want to deal with that pain and that loss again. So for
mhm,
Diana, I saw that the moment where it was a montage of everybody that she fought with, her whole gang, and Etta Candy, you saw them doing different things throughout the years because there were different wars after World War I happening.
right.
So she participated in all of those, and like some of her friends were in it up until they passed away, and then her and Etta just lived out the days. I think it was in New York. They was on a ferry somewhere, and I think she recently died because that was a color
Mm,
photo. So I think that was still in the 80s, and I think Etta was the last one, and she was the most recent loss.
mm,
But at least, and I got that from the montage of it all. But I sense that because of the scene of her dining alone, the scene of her, saying no to Barbara Ann, like at first was like, no, I'm good. Like she's very introverted. Like she was very reserved. And before that, she wasn't that reserved. She was like, she wanted to know things. She was asking questions and all of these things in the first movie. So that's how I kind of figured out what that was, because of how she kind of stayed reserved. And I've known people like that. Sometimes I was like that, where it's like, I am just reserved. I don't want to talk. I don't want to spread my feelings. I just want to be by myself for the moment. And like, I sense that. And I think that's what people don't really get, is about that this movie is about Diana and how she's dealing with being by herself up until Steve came. And then people complain about Steve being in another man's body. And when I read
yeah.
that, I'm like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Realistically, I understand what you're coming from. But anyone ever think about Psylocke?
Oh, they've said that about Salak for years, but they just never listened until I'm trying to think of when the last when this new Excalibur.
Exo Sword? Exo Swords, and then I think she ended up becoming back to Captain Britain again. Like she was in her
Well,
own body, and
yeah, so there are the two. Like
mhm.
there's the Asian ninja that
Yeah.
he was inhabiting for all these decades,
Yeah,
and
but
then
even
her
though people were
actual
talking about it,
body.
it was more accepted because they didn't change it for decades, you
I
know?
think it wasn't accepted because people were still mad about it, and the fact
Mm,
that it had to do with not just race but also being in someone else's body without permission, like the whole consent.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it took, I want to say that it was because of Hickman, and it was
Mm,
one or whoever decided to, because I know Hickman's in charge of like the X universe in essence now,
yeah.
and whoever's writing Excalibur now, that they had to do that. But that was, I mean, I think things like that now aren't accepted, and they have to change it. It didn't dawn on me though as deep as people were thinking about the Steve thing, because I wanted, I it this the wish on honestly, because the wish was like the monkey's paw.
Yeah.
You had to be very exact in what you said, but even then, you still weren't going to get exactly what you wanted. What
Mhm,
you
and
from your
even with her, I feel like it kinda read her mind because she didn't say it. It's just, she felt it.
yeah, but the
Yeah.
thing is that it never. I don't understand why it put him in someone else's body. Why it didn't just bring him back.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think it needed a body to attach his spirit to because his body was gone from
Yeah.
the place.
Explosion. Yeah.
And I get why people were upset about that. And
Mhm.
because some people like went deep with it, and I hadn't gone that deep, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So that was problematic, I'll say.
Mm. Yeah. I think that was the
And I
only
think,
gripe that I had. I was like, they could have done something
yeah,
else with that, but
and
because I
especially
thought
when
about
they're having
Psylocke and
sex.
yeah, like that
So
that's the part, like the
uh,
part where you're in another man's body. To me, like I didn't it's like you, I didn't look that deep into it
yeah,
because comics does that. I'm thinking Psylocke at this point, right? And
mhm,
people around me, that's why I said that nobody really talks about Psylocke in that way. I guess because, you're around other people that are talking about it. Me, I wasn't around people. So I'm like, I'm assuming that it was accepted. And it's like, so nobody's talking about Psylocke? Like it happened to Psylocke and
Like, yeah, and it
like
Psylocke has been like that
why is she in another woman's body?
yeah, like
Especially yeah.
Psylocke has been like that for I'm trying to think of how many decades, like maybe two.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. She's been like that for so long. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, people are mad about it, but they weren't mad enough for the writer to change the
Mm,
story or to like kind of separate the two and
mhm.
focus more on one of the other or both, but separately. So they didn't do much to like us being mad about it didn't do much about them changing it, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, Psylocke, this lady's been in this other lady's body for like almost 20 years, 20
Yeah,
plus
I
years.
mean, yeah,
So it's like that's why I said that. It's like
yeah,
nobody's saying about Psylocke here. But I
yeah.
think my gripe is when she slept with him. That's my only real gripe, and then I kind of just went past. I was like, are you really asleep? Like, I guess for her is that she's just in the belief that
Like
she's
she's
in that whole, like, oh my God, you're here. You're really Steve. You're this, you're that. Like, once she started believing it was Steve, it was Steve.
yeah,
And
but
I don't think she was really thinking about it.
him like just seeing the other man. Also, the other thing that was messed up is they just went through my man's closet.
Mm.
They just went like, but people started asking the question like they don't know if he has children. They don't know if he's a divorcee. But that's what I think
Mm-hmm.
about it. And I was like, well, you didn't see any kids' pictures around the house, so I don't think he has any kids or he's a divorce. I would say that he's like a bachelor. But then I started
You
thinking,
can tell he was a bachelor.
yeah,
Yeah.
but then I started thinking about like nobody knows if he's like what his deal is, like if he has any venereal diseases.
Right.
Like I
Right.
may have gone
That
too
was a
deep
plot
into
hole in
it.
itself. Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, this was the 80s also, so there was a lot of raw dogging. Let's just put it out there. There was a lot of raw
Mhm.
dogging going on in the 80s.
All
Let's
the
be real.
STDs and STIs, all that really didn't stem to the media until like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know,
Um,
but
yeah, but like that was the biggest aside from the theme, because the theme for some reason the theme hit me harder. I don't know why. You know what? My bad. Maybe I'm problematic. Maybe I'm a jerk. I know, but the theme was watered down, but it felt like it was watered down in an 80s kind of way. If that makes any
mhm.
sense.
Yeah. I guess they didn't want to overwhelm you because the 80s was such a, I feel like from what the story's been told and
Mm-hmm.
from the TV shows that still air to this day, it felt like it was
Mm-hmm.
a very colorful time. But they also
Yeah.
took opportunities to talk about the issues that were going on, like how the 70s shows were.
Yeah.
Again, I watch these shows because it comes on TV. My mom still watches them. I watch them with her and I watch them with
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother. Sometimes I watch the 40s stuff on Turner Classic
Oh yeah.
Movies. Like
Yeah.
I like
Mm-hmm.
watching old movies and old TV shows and stuff like that. For me personally, I like
Mm-hmm.
watching all that. Me being an old soul and all, but
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that was a bit weird. That was the only gripe I really had with that movie
Yeah,
was
that was the only thing.
like
I
the
mean,
body and her sleeping with him the night after. Like
yeah, like that was
yeah,
like
that was the only
because he kept
gripe that
saying,
I had.
"Oh, it's me, Steve. It's me, Steve." But she doesn't. And at first, I was like, "Why doesn't that look like?" And then when they
Mhm.
explained it, I was like, "That still doesn't make sense with the wish." But again, okay, then that was problematic as well. But
Mhm.
those were the only two gripes that I had. I didn't mind there being not as much action. I knew the
Yeah,
character was
I
there,
didn't
not
mind
as
it
much
either.
action. I looked at a lot of it as being somewhat of like almost an homage to Superman because I know Patty Jenkins was
Yeah.
saying that she was a fan, and you can see it and you can feel it in there,
I mean,
especially
you can
in that
tell.
opening scene with her and the mall and the robbers and
Mhm.
such like that. I
I thought it was the most cheesiest thing, but
but it
it
was
works
80s
because
cheese,
it's the 80s and
right?
it was amazing. It was amazingly cheesy, but cheesy in a good way. Like it didn't make me cringe.
Yeah, it made sense. Like if you, I'm looking at this as an 80s movie in essence, like it's
Right.
a movie made in the
Yeah,
80s, not
that's what it's
literally
meant to be. Yeah.
exactly. Maxwell Lord, I really enjoyed that character and how completely
Mhm.
80s he was. And
Yeah.
being that, get rich quick because during the 80s you saw a lot of like, quote unquote, rich guys going, you can do
Business
this too.
tycoons and
Exactly.
all
And there were
that,
these
yeah.
pyramid schemes and everything, and they didn't have a dollar to spend.
Mhm.
And then seeing his son and him trying to break that cycle of what happened to him, but
Mhm.
the thing about it is that when you fight so hard not to become something, you
You ended up
become
becoming it.
exactly,
Yeah.
that's what happens. And some people said that they were mad about the fact that she won by the power of friendship. And I was like, I don't think that's what it was. I think it was just her saying, yeah, like I don't think that's what it was. I think it was her saying, use common sense. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
You see all the wishes that you're making and such like
Hell,
that.
I wish she would have done that for this year, but you know.
Yeah. But but even then, it kind of mirrored what was happening with COVID because you saw people
Mhm.
doing selfish things that was making things worse. So you're not wearing
Right.
your mask out there, you're making it worse. You might be
Yeah.
asymptomatic and you're going
Uh-huh.
home and you're spending time with whoever, they're not asymptomatic and they're getting it and having the symptoms. So it kind of mirrored. So it made extra
Mhm.
sense. But it was perfectly 80s again because everyone was so selfish and being worse and worse and worse.
Every
And
action
it
has
just
a reaction.
exactly, and it made everything worse and worse and worse in the movie. And her
Right.
learning that life lesson of you can't cheat, you have to do it. Sometimes things hurt, and that's
Yeah.
part of life, and you'll deal with it. And that was part of her losing Steve again.
Yeah, she had to let go.
She
I
had
feel. She had to let go. And I feel like what people kind of miss about Wonder Woman, again, a lot of people wanted to see the action and all that, which
Mhm,
is great, but if you really look at it at its core, it's more about Diana and her,
exactly.
not only the whole funny montage of her showing Steve around this time around, see, showing
Mhm.
Steve this time around, like just like,
Oh
hey, this is
yeah,
like this different things, like how he was showing her around
yes,
in
yeah. I
London.
hadn't thought about that either. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like she's doing the same thing for him, but in the 80s,
Mhm.
because he's like, whoa, what is
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
What is going on? It's like, and it was a scene where he was admiring, like she was talking about the art because they were at I think the plaza where it has like a
yeah,
lot of statues and all that. And he was looking at a trash can. She's like, no, that's just a trash can.
yeah, exactly.
And that
Like,
part was funny. But I think for a lot of people kind of miss out on is that Wonder Woman, most of the time, yeah, she's a warrior. She's gonna sometimes she kills off her enemies depending on who the writer is. She's gonna
mhm,
kill off her enemies. Sometimes she's not. She's gonna show them compassion and love, right? And then you have other stories where she doesn't fight at all. She used her diplomatic status
mhm,
to really talk about love, talk about peace, talk about compassion. That's what she did in this one.
right.
Like she used the lasso of truth. Why? Because of truth.
Yes, yes,
And the
yes.
thing is that
Her most powerful weapon.
right. And the thing is that with Maxwell Lord, he was wishing and he wanted all these wishes to get his health back, sure. But in a way, like a business tycoon, you're lying to these people and
Mhm.
you're not telling them what they're sacrificing. Like when the guy was like, "Oh, I wish this person dead," and this person is dying on the floor
Mhm.
the second that he said that. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like people are doing things without worrying about the consequences. They're not thinking about the consequences. And this guy is telling you that you can have everything you want in a very 80s fashion, of course. Like you
Mhm.
can have everything you want, and those are full of lies. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like he's lying so much that he believes it. He
Yep.
became a wish god because he
Exactly.
wished to have the power of the stone.
Mhm.
So for all of that, he's lying to himself.
Mhm.
She does Barbara Ann was lying to herself. Like she's not being true to herself.
Right.
She wants what somebody else has because she's jealous of this person and how
Right.
poised this person is. Instead of looking at herself and being true to herself and trusting in herself to
Mhm.
be who she is. She's very smart. She's a beautiful woman. She has a good career that not a lot of people are lucky
Oh,
enough to
truly.
have. You know what I mean? So it's like you have these things, you have security. You just have to have that trust. And this
Mhm.
is stuff that I'm learning today as a person because like everybody has their moments of having that eureka moment of learning who you
Yep.
are as a person, accepting your truth and everything like that. But that kind of goes for her. Diana herself, she had to be honest with herself. Like, look, this person is gone. I have to move on now.
Mhm.
And Steve is telling her himself, like, look, I know I love you. I know you love me, but I'm gone. You have to move on. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
And it was
Because
also the way
you're
for her to become stronger again was to accept
right.
that truth will make
Yeah.
you stronger
Right,
That's
literally
another,
and
yeah.
figuratively. Yeah, so because it's like the longer I'm here, the more immortal you're becoming, and then something can drop on you and you could die. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, you sacrificed even though she didn't say her wish, I felt like I felt like whoever possesses the stone, and if you desire it, the stone's gonna read off.
It's gonna revolve
Yeah,
that
it's gonna
that
reap off
that
of that
center of
feeling.
desire. Yep.
Right, it's because the way her desire, was it was strong
Yeah.
because she was isolated from everybody, she was by herself. She
Mhm.
didn't want to socialize with anybody. So, it's,
And you know what? Come to think of it, when
mhm.
she left the mascara and she was in man's during the war, and Steve's, like little band and stuff like that, those were her first friends
Yeah.
that she chose to have. Like, they weren't
Mhm.
just there from birth. They were people that she chose to have, people that chose
Right.
to be around each other. They were their own family. They were their own group.
And these are people from different walks of life
Exactly, from
that
all
had
over.
their own gripes, yeah.
And the fact that they were men, again, something that she has not dealt with like that. So to
Mhm.
have this band of people who
Yep.
were chose to be together and who were friends and having good times and laughing and
Yep.
seeing how they each felt pain and love and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that hits even harder because it's not something that you knew from when you were a child and you grew up. These were people that you were thrust into their world. They had your back. They chose to
Yeah.
have your back. And not because you were royalty or because of who your mother was or because you're
And
this
they didn't even
God
know that.
killer. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
They
God
didn't even know
killer.
that till the
Like
end.
that. Yeah. Like that. Like this is like these are people that were just there, you know?
Right. So for her to go through that, I felt like she was lying to herself. Like, yeah, lying to herself in a way of, I can't keep moving on. Like, I can't, in terms of me being Diana Prince, I can't move on socially. I
Right.
have to just keep my mind focused on being Wonder Woman. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, just like how Superman is just a man at the end and Batman is just a man at the end,
Mhm.
Wonder Woman is just a woman. She's a human, a very powerful human, Amazonian, but she still has thoughts and feelings and all that too, and desires too. So, that's why I feel like the ending didn't bother me as much because she used the lasso of truth. And I think through that experience, she had to learn to be true to yourself and to be honest. Like, yes, you know what? I'm having a hard time moving on. Like, this man was my first love. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe she had some flings on the island, but it's obviously is not as strong-willed as it was with Steve Trevor
Mhm.
because she's the first man she met.
Mhm.
He was the one that introduced her to everything,
Mhm.
even ice cream.
Yep.
And they had those moments. They had those moments where they argued about what was right, what was wrong. Because of her naivete,
Mhm.
they had those moments where, like the scene after the no man's land scene where they was just dancing because they
Yeah.
saved that village and they dancing and the snow was coming down and she's
Mhm.
looking around like what's going on, like she didn't even know that was snow. She didn't know what
Yeah.
snow was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
There was
like
something that she didn't know about.
it's a lot of moments that they shared together that is very special.
Yeah.
And yeah, like people was like, how you gonna fall in love with a man you just met? But technically, if you really
It
look at it, it felt like the movie's gonna show that. But if you really
Mhm.
think about it, it probably happened over a span of weeks to a month to maybe two
Mhm.
months. Like you don't know. It's just because it's a movie, it's gonna go through, its
Exactly, yeah.
natural progression. But I feel like that's what it is, where she's not getting over it. She didn't let herself heal from losing not just only Steve, but you're losing all her friends. And Etta
Mhm.
being the most latest one, because again, the photo was color. So I'm assuming that she probably died before 84, like maybe 80 up until 84.
Yeah.
Because again, or maybe in the late 70s.
Mhm.
But she just didn't grieve properly because she has been alone for so long.
Mhm.
So for Steve to say, you have to let me go, like I will always be here spiritually, but you have to let me go. You have to live your life. You have to be Wonder Woman. You have to save the world. You have to be who you are. And I like that because he loves her enough and he sees the damage that this whole repercussion is doing to her, he sees that. And he doesn't want to stick around if it's hurting her in the process. He would rather see her happy. You know what I mean? And that's true
Yeah.
love right there. Like true love is knowing when to let go. I
Mhm.
feel like yeah, you love this person, but if it's hurting them in the end, and either you're hurting them or the relationship itself is not working and it's hurting both of you, you have to love each other enough to let go. And
Exactly.
that's what I see from it. And that whole lasso of truth where she learned that from him, then she kind of moved it over to Maxwell Lord and got the lasso on his leg. And, that's when the whole montage of his life happened. And it's like, damn, he had it rough.
Yeah.
And, and then you have all these people around the world, they have it rough too. They're trying to make money, they're trying to live, like they're living their ordinary lives, but they're trying to survive, you
Exactly.
know. So for them to have all these big wishes and all of that, it's the world's gonna go on fire
Yeah.
if that continues. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
because
I feel like
everybody was getting what they wanted in the most selfish
right,
way possible.
and at the same time, it was sacrificing what they already have.
Exactly.
So
And it
I
was just the
think,
little things.
yeah, and I feel like I remember I was talking to you about it a few days ago where the ending kind of reminded me of volume 1 of Wonder Woman Rebirth, where
Mhm.
her and Cheetah was going after this god that had Cheetah by the chain. And even though Wonder Woman was fighting the god, whatever she was doing wasn't working. So she gave Cheetah the lasso of truth, and Cheetah had like a whole bunch of the girls that were kidnapped for this god. They
Mhm.
all surrounded him with the lasso of truth and to have him expose his lies. Because, Barbara Ann in that comic, Barbara Ann, just went there and went to this place and discovered this god, and he promised her all of these things, and he was essentially lying, but because of how she felt about certain things, and for some reason she's thinking that Diana was going to save her. And then when she got kidnapped, her device that that lets her contact Diana got lost. So Diana
Mm.
didn't know what was happening to Barbara Ann. She didn't know nothing. She was looking for her, but she didn't know exactly where to look. She looked everywhere. And then when Barbara Ann resurfaced as Cheetah, and that's where the whole friendship thing kind of diminished and got tested. And I think for volume 1, when Diana was looking for Barbara Ann so that Diana can remember how to get home and to figure out who she was as a person and all of that, she needed Cheetah's help. And, the whole thing where Cheetah was like, well, if I help you, you have to help me type of thing.
Mhm.
And that's how that whole story kind of started for volume 1. But, long story short, at the end, all the girls that were kidnapped and at least some of them that were still there, and Cheetah, they used the lasso of truth to expose his lies. And because it exposed his lies, Barbara Ann became Barbara Ann again. She became human. The
Mhm.
girls were rescued. They went, some of them stayed to protect that altar to make sure that that god doesn't resurface again, and other ones went home to their families, and that whole thing. But the whole point of that is it reminded me of that, because you're letting the lasso expose the truth,
Mhm. And
and you're
being able to
letting
use that.
right. And I think what it is that Wonder Woman wasn't doing, like she was doing the physical fighting. Obviously that didn't work. So this is a good instance to use the lasso. And the lasso is like one of the most powerful weapons on in her arsenal. So
Mhm.
I think the way that they use the lasso was a very creative way, because it really did remind me of volume 1 of Rebirth for her, you know. So
So what was as a because honestly, like thinking about it now, I'm probably gonna go back and rewatch the animated movies,
yeah.
Wonder Woman and Wonder Bloodline. I really like Bloodline a lot. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
probably
to
gonna
be
go
honest
back.
with you, I
Hmm.
didn't like the Bloodlines too much the first time I watched it, but the second time I rewatched it,
Yeah, I
and
watched it
it
this
was
last
pretty
time
good.
too.
Like I came to terms with what I didn't like about it, and I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
well, this is just another version of the movie. But I do like it towards the end, because it kind of does remind me of the whole Cheetah and
Yeah.
Diana relationship. I think the only thing I didn't like was that Hippolyta was way too aggressive. I think that's the only thing I didn't like about it.
Mm. I think I'm gonna go back and watch because I just recently watched Bloodlines because they just recently put it on Max.
HBO Max, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think I actually want to go back and watch the Justice League,
Hmm.
and Justice League Unlimited for like the 10th time or such, what have you, because they're so well done.
Yeah.
And the way that it's I'm trying to think of who the actress is that does her voice. I want to say
Was
Dan,
it for Justice League?
yeah,
I
I
think
think
was it Susan Eisenberg? Susan Eisenberg, I
I
think,
I,
because
I
I know she
thought
did
it
her
was
voice at one point.
thought that was Dana Delaney.
I think but it
Oh no
was
no no
Dana
no.
Delaney.
Wait, no no
One of the
Dana,
two.
no Dana Delaney was Lois Lane. I want to say. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. No, I think it is Susan Eisenberg for Wonder
Susan
Woman, and
Eisenberg.
then
Okay.
Rosario Dawson did the voiceover for both the animated movies that
Hmm.
Wonder Woman was in.
Yeah, so I think I actually want to go back and watch it, and I actually want to start reading because I have read the Wonder Woman Future State, but after what you're saying now, I want to go and read. Want to go and read the Rebirth because I read a few of the Rebirth things,
Yes.
and I really like them. I
Yes.
didn't do New 52 too much, just because it just some of it just didn't jive
I
with me, just too jarring.
I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't get into it.
But a lot of what was done with Rebirth was some of the
Mhm.
best stuff in years. From
Mhm.
all we need is a video game for Wonder Woman.
I
New
know. I know.
game. Like in the
Right.
vein of like, give me a mix of Arkham and Tomb Raider.
Yes. Like,
Give
just to
me
kind of put
something
all the
with
Greek gods and all of that in
yeah,
there.
like give
Yeah.
me something in modern and
Mhm.
in the ancient. You can even
Yes.
like to train for the game, like you can even do like on Themyscira.
Yeah, that would be
Like you
fun.
can yeah, the archery and everything like that, and spirit and combat stuff like
Mhm.
that. Then give me, or you know what, when she learns, like
You hear this, Warner Brothers? You hear this?
say somehow her powers are diminished and she has to
Mhm.
regain them through different whatever. Um,
Right.
and every time she regains a power, she has a flashback back to Themyscira, and it's her
Mhm.
using that power or her training or such like that. You know what I
I mean,
mean?
if it can be
Use
like
that.
kind of like Arkham or not Superman, Spider-Man, like the way the
Oh
gameplay will
yeah,
be, that would be pretty cool. That would be awesome.
I would rather her because you know how in Spider-Man is much smaller because it's more the
Right.
vastness of the city. Where
Yeah.
Arkham, you see more of Batman himself. I'd rather it be
Mhm.
more like that because I want to see more of her.
Yeah.
I guess if that makes sense, but still have those incredible. And that was Rocksteady that did the Arkham.
Yeah.
I want to say, except for the
Yeah.
last one. I don't think did they do the last one?
No, they didn't do the first one, the
Was the
Arkham
first one didn't do it?
Origins, because they
So
did
that was
they
okay.
did Arkham Asylum, Arkham
Mm-hmm.
City, and Arkham Knight, but they didn't do Arkham Origins. That
Okay,
was I
original.
think that was the fourth game, but it's supposed to be the prequel to the first
Yeah,
three.
yeah, because I've played all four of them. I haven't finished Arkham Knight though.
I only played three of them. I didn't play Origins. Well, actually, no, I'm lying. I gotta put the lasso of truth on me now.
See, right there.
I nice little segue. No, I played Arkham Knight and I played Arkham City. I didn't play Arkham Asylum. I was watching someone play Arkham Asylum,
Oh,
which
okay.
I do want to play it now. I know that they have it as a bundle now, so I do want to play
Mhm.
Arkham Asylum and just kind of get my hands in it because I liked it the moment I was watching someone play it. And then
Yeah,
once I got my hands on Arkham City, I was just like, whoo. And I am a big Catwoman fan too. So the fact that I get
yeah,
to play as Catwoman as well, I was like, yes,
yeah. Like the
come
way
take my money.
the thing I like about is it trying to remember which one it is where they first started doing like the dual moves, like where you could work together and do. I think
Mhm.
was it Arkham?
No, I think
Knight?
that was Arkham Knight.
Was it Arkham Knight? Because you can do like the dual moves, whether it's Nightwing,
Mhm.
Robin, or Catwoman. Like you can do the dual. Like I like that because yeah,
Was
they're
it
all
Arkham?
solo, but they can do.
Yeah.
No, wait.
I'm trying to remember whether it was Arkham City. Kind of, you do it a lot more
City,
in Arkham Knight, but in Arkham
City.
City, you
Yeah,
get to play as these characters. I don't
yeah.
remember. I would have to play the game again because I don't remember if.
So it is Arkham City because that's the game that I played. Because that's the game
Mhm.
before Arkham Knight.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
was trying to remember. I was like, I don't, because I know in Arkham Knight you do the tag team with Wonder Woman. Not Wonder Woman. Like wow, Catwoman.
Hmm.
You do the tag team with her, especially when you have to save her from the Riddler.
Yeah.
Um, you know what? Yeah, it was Arkham City
Yeah.
because they're the ones that introduced that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So.
actually, I I would like to have that type of feel for a Wonder Woman game, because that seems like the last, because the only thing I can think of that's a Wonder Woman is Injustice,
Mm-hmm. And
and
Injustice 2.
yeah, and you can have her as a mentor in DC Online.
Mm-hmm. That's as close as you're gonna get it for now,
Yeah,
anyway.
like that's like, and there was a Justice League game years ago. I think it was a mobile game,
Mm-hmm.
where it was similar to the Marvel Legends games, where you could have four characters, you could switch between them during the
Mm-hmm.
gameplay, where she was in there. But that was, God, maybe 10 years ago, possibly, but maybe 7, 8 years ago. So, but she deserves a game. I mean, that's
Yeah.
long overdue, seeing as how this is one of the holy trinity for DC. This is one of
I
those
mean,
iconic
it took a
characters.
while for the Wonder Woman movie, not just the 2017
Yeah.
one, but just her getting a an animated movie by herself, the one
Mhm.
with Nathan Fillion in it.
Yeah.
And that, like, when that movie came out, I was like, I watched it all the time
Mhm.
when I was able to watch it. I would watch it multiple times, the same way that I was treating 2017's movie, just
Yeah.
watch it over and over. As I watched it now, I see the problematic things where it's like, you know, how she
Yeah.
came in and she's like, men are this and men are that. I was like, damn, girl, calm down. Like, she was more aggressive, but then in Bloodlines, her mother was aggressive. So it's like,
Mhm.
you got to kind of balance out that aggressiveness, ma'am.
I,
Ladies.
I honestly think that at a certain point, because with DC, the great thing that you
Hmm.
can do is you can have the Elseworlds kind of thing.
Hmm.
I think at some point do they will have to have a live action movie where it is a bit darker,
Yeah, that's
just
true.
because of that. Because if you Wonder Woman's movie could be the darkest out of all of them. That could be the one movie that is, if they want to, that could be the one movie that is like rated R.
Because she's the only one that really kills her villains.
Yeah,
Again, depending on the writer, but she's the one that
yeah.
really kills her villains. It's
Mm-hmm.
even a panel that I remember. I don't remember what story it was from, but I think she was talking to Batman at some point because
Mm-hmm.
Batman was the one that's always trying to save his villains.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "This is why you have this problem, Bruce, and why I
Mm-hmm.
don't is because I take
Yeah.
care of my villains. Like they are gone,
Yeah.
and that's it." And that is true. And I remember talking to my fiance about it one point, where it's like, who are her villains? And I would give him a list that I can, from the stories that I have. But he's like, but they're all dead. Like, who are her villains now? So her villains are being shared because she killed all of hers.
Yeah.
And I was
So,
like, you got a point there, but again, it depends on the writer because the writer can just bring them back because essentially they're gods,
yeah.
or they're servants of the god.
Yeah.
But
Like the
you
only ones
know,
I can think of are, I mean, Cheetah. Um,
mhm. You have Cheetah, you have
yeah,
Giganta, you have
Gigantic,
Ares,
yeah,
you have
the gods.
most of her villains are gods for the most part. Then you have
Yeah.
Doctor Poison.
Oh yes,
Um,
yes, yeah. You're right.
you
Yeah,
have I forgot the
but she would have
Maxwell
to
Lord
have.
at some point. You
Well,
had
I mean, but she snapped his neck. So I
yeah,
mean,
that was it.
yeah. But you know what? But that's who you would have to be as her recurring
Hmm.
um women. So it's pretty much the women are just the recurring enemies for her, and not men.
Well, that and Ares. Ares is always going
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
that recurring one. That's her
Well,
arch. Her and him and Cheetah are the arch
yeah.
enemies.
Well, I mean, like aside from gods, because the gods like you can always bring back because of
Oh, you
God.
mean like the
Which
ones
has
that aren't
yeah,
gods? Like yeah, it's
which
always going to be Cheetah.
yeah, which
That's
kind of
her
make
main one.
yeah, which kind of makes sense because in what is it, New Frontier animated movie,
Hmm. That movie is good.
when they're
Very
that movie
good.
is great.
Yeah, it's
When
amazing.
one woman goes to that village and he
Yes.
gets all the women together to kill the male soldiers.
Hmm.
That scene hit me. I was sitting there like, yeah, yeah, because she's seen the horror and the darkness of man's world. So what
Yes.
do? You get rid of these evil men.
And this is like the golden age Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So, her perspective is a little different from modern day Wonder Woman.
yeah.
So,
But if they have some type of mix of those two sensibilities,
Mhm.
of that, still that harder edge, but still having, but not being problematic, and still being able to have that awareness of when you're
Yeah.
going too far.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's where the problem lied with the animated movies for her, at
Mm-hmm.
least the first one. Because, like I said, I love the first one because I watched it 50 million times. Just the fact that it was her first solo
Mm-hmm.
animation movie, and I guess, and this is me as like a college, like someone coming out of college and watching it, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think it came out in 2009.
Yeah,
I
sounds
think,
about
if I
right. Yeah, that sounds,
remember,
or maybe a little. No, 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 later.
little. Yeah. Either
Yeah,
way, I was
yeah,
out of
somewhere around
college
there.
already, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is amazing. This is the first Wonder Woman, animated solo film without
Mhm.
Batman or Superman. Because, like, for some reason, they just put her there whenever there's a Batman or Superman, they just put
Yeah.
them there, but it's one without him, and then we actually get to know who Steve Trevor is, right? And then the problems were, like, the whole comments on the Amazons when he first came, her perspective on men,
Mm-hmm.
the whole scene with Etta Candy, I didn't like.
Oh
Because,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
because Etta is supposed to be her first female friend out of that mascara and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is me looking at it now, you know,
Mm-hmm.
as someone in my 30s now. Like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, this movie, I like it. I still like it because it, like, she lights up towards the end. And
Mm-hmm.
I just like Nathan Fillion as an actor. He's very charismatic and stuff. Um, but, like, she was really aggressive in terms of her perspective of men. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, it's understandable because you grew up with
Yeah.
that perspective of how a man's world would be versus women and all of that. But I
Mm-hmm.
felt like she was a little too aggressive on what she thought a woman should be in a man's world versus what a man should be. How a man should be in the man's world versus how she grew up. Especially with the whole Etta Candy scene where Etta was using her womanly charm to get Steve to pick up her pen, and she's like, "Why
Mm-hmm.
can't you just pick up your own pen?" I mean, granted, that's the same question, but I
Yeah.
guess for her, it's like she didn't know that Etta was trying to get Steve to notice her, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
like,
because you've
but
only had that one type of way, and they've all been
mhm,
direct there. Like they never had to do that. That's was like, oh,
mhm.
can you pick up, my shield or whatever item they had there?
Yeah, like,
So
yeah, and I guess, like, I understand, but at the same time, it's a little too aggressive
yeah.
because, you're coming from, and those are the only things I had a gripe with. Because, again, she lightened up towards the end, whereas, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not everybody in the man's world, man or woman, they're not all bad. They're not
Mm-hmm.
thinking all this way.
Yeah,
There
there's
are
varying
really good people
degrees.
out there. Like, this, like, her perspective is trying is changing. It's like
Mm-hmm.
your paradigm shift.
Right.
Like, you kind of shift the longer that you're in a different place. The one scene that I really do like, and I feel like the 84 movie kind of harkened back to, was when Wonder Woman saw a little girl in the park when her and Steve was just coming back. I don't know if you remember the scene, but the little girl didn't wanted to play with the boys. They wanted to play sword and shield with the boys, but the boys
Oh
wouldn't let
yes,
her.
yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
they wanted her to be just a princess. So Diana was just teaching her, like, okay, first of all, they're not even holding the sword right. So let me teach you how to hold a sword.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, go on, unleash hell. And I thought that part was funny because it kind of reminded me of, after watching it, it reminded me of 84,
Mm-hmm.
where she saved this little girl, and the little girl just happened to be a black little girl. And the little girl in the film, the animated film, was a black little girl. So
Right.
it's like, it's just how she just like it's how she like how little kids see her. You know what I mean? Regardless of where you're coming from, like what background you have, it's how the kids see her, and they see her as a hero. You know what I mean? They see
Yeah.
her as someone that is for them,
Exactly. Yeah.
and
Because
how she saved the little girl in 84, how she made the little girl in the animated movie feel like she's wanted and she could do things just as well as the boys. And that's always been a woman's message, right? Ever since the women's rights movement, the suffrage movement, all of that is like, we should have the right to vote. We should have the right to get paid equally. We should have the right to do certain
everything
things
that
that, yeah,
everything
like,
that y'all are able to
not even
do.
just certain
Yeah.
things, but everything. We
Yeah.
should have that agency to do the
Yes.
same
Perfect
things
word.
that men can do. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
we can't lift everything. Where if it's super heavy,
Mm.
we would need other people to help us lift it. Even men will have a hard time lifting certain things. They need
Yeah,
another
it's
person to help.
yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? But
That
other
goes
than
without
that,
saying. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
to yeah, to that's always been that thing, is to be seen, to be
Hmm.
recognized as equal. Like,
Yeah.
why
Because
am
we're
I
all
being
humans. We all bleed the same
yeah,
blood
like,
color
why am I
anyway.
being second
Hmm.
to? There's no point to that.
We're just as witty. We're just as smart. We're just as
Exactly. You're
dorky. We're just
just
as
as
this.
human
We're
as
just
anyone
that.
else.
We're just human.
Exactly.
We were just born with a different
Just a different
reproductive
form.
system.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Just a different
uh,
form, and that's all.
yeah, that's all. But it's just the fact that I felt like it kind of harkened back to that because it just like the moment I saw that mall scene where she saved the
Hmm.
little girl, it reminded me of that scene a little bit where how the kids look up. Like this little girl didn't even know who she was in the animated film, didn't know who she was, but she was crying and she felt comfortable enough to talk to this stranger.
Yeah.
And it would happen to be a woman. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And
Yeah, she felt.
psychologically, a lot of people do feel more comfortable talking to a woman than a man, I guess, because of the stigma of a man trying to steal someone or trying to
Yeah,
do
sure.
something. And it was a kid.
Mhm.
Kid, I guess a kid see another girl, a woman, and felt comfortable enough to tell, like, oh, they won't let me play. They won't let
Mhm.
me play sword and shield with them.
Yeah,
Because to be
that's
honest with you, I'm like, you teach your children not to talk to strangers. And usually with that perception is always the men. Don't let children talk to the men
mhm.
because you don't know if this man has good intentions. You don't know if this man is going to take you and steal you away in a van somewhere. It's always that perception. So they never put it in the woman's perspective where it's like, don't talk to strangers, period, whether it's a man or a woman, because you don't
Yeah,
know what their intentions are. I
that's
mean,
always that's true. It's always seen that way. I mean, anybody can
do
do you
horrible
harm or
things,
take you like
but
that. Yeah.
right, but it's always that perception of man.
Mhm.
So for the animated film, for her to feel comfortable enough to tell her what's wrong and all of that, I guess it's and didn't even know who she was yet. She wasn't even considered Wonder Woman yet.
Yeah, she
But
wasn't
she
seen as
felt
that icon, that figure.
right, but she felt compelled enough to tell her like, "Oh, these boys won't let me play."
Mhm.
That was it. And I think in 84 it wasn't the same thing cuz she just saved her from a gunman doing something stupid. But,
It was
it's
just
more
a type of
like
homage to that scene.
yeah, it kind of feels like it was an homage to that scene because it was a little girl, and it's
Mhm.
just like the little wink was so
Yep.
cute. I'm like, "Oh, that's so adorable."
Yeah,
It was so adorable.
Patty, I'm not sure who was in charge, whether it's Patty Jenkins or writer such what have you. They took a lot of like little nods from things that had to do with Wonder Woman, um,
Mhm.
from across her medias, whether it was the comics or the animated movies.
Ice
Um,
cream.
yeah,
Every I'm
like
always thinking about the ice cream
yeah,
because
like
that's in our comics. Yeah.
I'm sure if I was to like really like fine tune through the movie, I'm sure there would be some stuff that I could see that would be from Justice League or Justice League Unlimited.
Mhm. Yes.
So that shows a definite fan and love of the work too by being able to look through.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna say, okay, we're gonna use this. We'll use this. This we'll use. Just little like that's the beautiful thing too is being able to put those throughout movies. There's
Yeah.
little lines like that. It makes it fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love about 84 is that it didn't take itself too seriously. Like how as much as I do like Man of Steel, it took itself a little too seriously. Like the
Yeah.
scene where he was talking to Lois and they were pointing at the S, and it's like, oh, it stands for hope. But it's like you don't really feel that much hope in the film
Yeah.
because not because of the dialogue. Like you can feel it through the dialogue, but you don't feel it through the cinematography because
Right.
everything is so gray. Nothing is really color. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like there's and the thing is, as an artist, when you're doing illustrative work or when you're doing sequentials or anything story related, color has something to do with it. Even black and white has something to do with it because it tells the tone of story. Like it tells the
Hmm.
tone of that moment. Like if it's a blue scene, but it's like a super blue scene, it's a depressive scene, or maybe someone is thinking about things. If you see like a warmer color, they're in a different state of mind where they're happy or they're in a positive place, or for Wonder Woman in Superman's case, hope. love, compassion.
Mhm.
That's why you always see those montages of Superman during the day, Batman during the night. Because Batman during the night, this dude is always brooding somewhere. And what colors does he wear? Gray, black, blues,
Mhm.
right? So he's always wearing these colors. Like, yeah, because he's a ninja. In a way,
Yeah.
he's just a ninja. But if you really look at it like this, Bruce never really had like a stable, happy life. He's always brooding somewhere. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Even when he's with other Justice League members, he stands out because he's the only one really, aside from Black Lightning, because Black Lightning is wearing black, blue, and yellows. But
Mhm.
with him, he's the only one with no kind of like smile. Like he hardly ever smiles unless Superman says something silly to make him smile or whatever.
Mhm.
But he's the only one that's really brooding. Like, look at the Flash. The Flash had a crazy life where his mother was killed in front of him and his dad took the rap for it. But you don't see him brooding about it. He's just trying to find justice for his mom. But you
Yeah.
don't see him brooding about it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and he had his mom killed in front of him. Bruce had his parents killed in front of him too. But the way that their perspectives were are different because of, the upbringing of what they did. Like, Flash had someone else to raise him for that time being. And then you had, Bruce had Alfred, but again, Alfred is not Alfred. Bruce is always brooding, right? So you have
Right.
that scene,
Regardless.
right? And you have that scene where he's always in these colors. Is always grayed out somehow. Like Hush is actually one of my favorite comics for Batman, where at some point he was happy because of Thomas Elliot coming around and all of that, but certain panels, if I remember correctly, I didn't get up to get the book, but it's
That's
on my
fine.
bookshelf. But I think certain panels, it's very dreary. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's very strong because it tells the mood of how Gotham City is, because Gotham City is a very depressing city because it's crime ridden
Yeah,
and it's
crime
full of
writers.
and it's full of rich people and all of that rich people that don't want to do anything for the city. Um, but then you have Metropolis where it's always something going on. It's always sunny and
Yep. It's
happy and
always,
all of that. Like
it
even
never
if there's
rains.
destruction, it never rains. Even if
Yep.
it's destruction down the block, everybody is still happy.
It's still always during the day. There's never any trouble at night. It's always during the day
Right,
if anything
exactly.
happens.
And
It's
then in
always
Gotham, it's the opposite, where during the day, oh no, not even. Like if you watch the Gotham TV show, everything always goes on 24 hours, 7 days a week. Something's always
yeah.
going on
Yeah,
during
it's
the day,
always like,
night, everything.
but
So
even during the
it's
day, it's still
depressing
very
city.
dreary and dark and
Exactly.
overcast kind of feel. There's never any type
Mhm.
of sunlight. Like even like
Yeah,
during the day, like I said, even though it could be at high noon, it'll still be dreary, it'll still be snowy, it'll still be overcast, it'll still be
right.
drizzling. There's some type of weather darkness
Mhm.
going on.
And
Anyway.
Gotham is a very depressing city versus Metropolis.
Hmm.
And where Wonder Woman stays, Wonder Woman travels around the world. I mean, nowadays, according to the movie itself, she's always in London, but or France, like somewhere in Europe, right?
Yeah, because I
But
know in the beginning of, trying to think of which movie it was. No, no, in the beginning of um, Wonder Woman, she's in Paris
yeah,
because she's at the
so
Louvre. I think it is. She's
yeah,
in there.
and that wasn't even her movies though, not yet anyway. It was in the Justice League movie. She was in Paris. So, when they was introducing her into that movie, she was in Paris. For this movie, I think she was in Washington, and for
Yeah, yeah.
2017, she was in Europe. I think she was either in. I know she was in London because they commented on how dreary it looked. But
Oh, I thought she
she
was in Paris in that one because I thought that she was at the Louvre
no,
when she
that
got
was
that letter
Justice
from,
League.
that
You
was
know, that was Justice League,
when
or
she got
maybe
the
at the
letter
beginning.
from Bruce.
You know what? Yeah, it was at the
Not the
beginning.
letter, the
The
picture.
photo. Yeah,
Yeah,
she was in
the photo. Yeah,
Paris.
it was.
I think it's because that portion of the film kind of goes from where Justice League was. Because remember, she
Yeah,
was in
yeah,
Paris too for Justice League.
yeah.
So I think that was at that point where she was there.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, she
that's why I
globetrotted
was
all
like, I was
over
saying
the
Justice League
place.
because she had more screen time there.
Yeah, but it's also
Um,
hard because the timelines are a little off,
yeah,
so it
yeah,
throws
they
people.
were trying to be like Marvel
Yeah, like
with that. Yeah.
it's definitely hard to do to get timelines
Hmm.
and continuity are important, Like you're gonna have flubs. You're gonna forget, oh, this happened, this happened, which is natural.
Mhm.
When you have so much going on, so many characters, so much content going on, that's
It's
definitely
like
gonna
the
happen.
comics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They don't know whether to keep the storyline or erase it or do an
yeah,
event to bring back the storyline or to erase that storyline
yeah.
and
But
yeah.
that's why there are always some type of reboot or what have you, which is
Mhm.
fine. But on that note of reboots and returns,
Yeah.
we will have to do this again on another topic
Yeah.
because this was really fun and a lot of insightful stuff that, again, like I said, I hadn't thought of with the movie. So that's one of the things that I wanted to do when I spoke to people were, talk about something that I've seen as well or that I've read as well, and
Mhm.
see things through someone else's eyes, and you get a different insight, different perspective. And you go, oh, okay, this is what this is. Oh, all right. So if you do go back and rewatch it or reread it or play it, if it's a game,
Right.
you'll see different moments that you go, oh, I don't understand that, or I didn't think that made sense, and you'll see that, and when you go, oh, okay, that's what they were talking about. That's why it feels this way. That's why it's that way.
Mhm.
So that's why these conversations are so cool and fun. And this is why we have these conversations in real life when we do go out to eat or what have you, and we're talking about this movie or what have you.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think that's the great part about just being a part of a small community of friends and just chilling out and just geeking out while eating and stuffing our face.
exactly. You get like this whole really cool vibe, and while that person's telling you about something and you're eating
Mhm,
something, or this like you're either sharing something new, whether it's a food, a movie, a comic, a series,
mhm.
a game, what have you. It's all about
Yeah,
opening
but
that perspective.
right, but I will say that at the end of 84, I did cry.
Mm,
Um, I enjoyed the movie so much that like I said, like all the stuff that was going on with Kofefe and the yeah, we call it Kofefe
right.
because like I don't think it's just so many crazy things happening surrounding COVID and everything between people's mental health and physical health and all of that, and then the protests that's going on and the elections going on, all this stuff is going on all within the same year, and then kind of bleeding itself into this year.
Mm,
That movie was an escape. That movie and Soul was a great
hmm.
escape, and just watching other movies after that, like going back to the Ghibli movies, all of that was really a great escape for me. And I think watching Wonder Woman, like people were just watching it just to watch it, but I guess for me it was special because it took me out of the reality of what was happening,
Right.
especially when someone dealing with anxiety and stuff is like, I'm just this is a great distraction for me.
Hmm.
But I ended up crying at the end because of spoiler alert. We had a guest appearance in the movie towards the end. It was Miss Linda Carter,
That
and
was when they talked about that character in the middle of the movie, I want to say.
yeah, they show her eyes and
Yeah,
everything,
and they talked, and I was like, oh, because I think like you wanted to see her in this universe somehow. You get
and
because I mean she's an iconic character. She's also
yes,
like herself, just being Linda
mhm,
Carter. She's iconic. Uh,
yeah,
we won't see what character she was, but you know what character she was.
yeah. And the thing is that I cried because she popped up, and again, I her show came out in the 70s, so I
Hmm.
didn't get that privilege to watch and grow up with the series. I know they have it on HBO Max now, so
Yeah.
that's on my queue, quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Hmm.
But you know, I only seen about maybe one or two episodes before I got HBO Max, and it was on regular TV. But it was one of those cable channels that play a lot of the older TV shows like
Yeah,
MASH. Um, what's his other one? A
like
lot of
westerns and stuff like that. Like
well,
they're
yeah,
doing a
not
lot
just
of
yeah,
like
westerns,
the
Good Times,
60s,
The
yeah, like the 60s,
Jeffersons.
70s,
Yeah,
early
like
80s kind of shows.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially like the Good Times, the Jeffersons, MASH, all of that.
Hmm.
My mom would watch those TV shows, especially Good Times and Jeffersons.
Hmm.
But I think it was at a point where she knows I love Wonder Woman, and it was a point where she was channel flipping. And she would call me like, Sha-Nee, Sha-Nee, Sha-Nee. I was like, what happened? I'm thinking something happened to her because the way she's shouting my name.
Which is
I
being
ran in, she
excitable.
was like, Wonder Woman. And I'm like, it's like, oh my god, this is awesome, and like me geeking out and everything. And I didn't see the whole episode, but I did see some of it, and I did see like her in the documentaries I would watch about DC and about Wonder Woman in general. I saw the movie about William H. Marston, like the Wonder
Yes.
Woman.
Mhm.
That's on, I think it's still on Hulu because I watched it on Hulu. And I watched that movie, and that movie
Mhm.
was very, very interesting and intriguing as to how Wonder Woman was created. And then, I saw the documentary right after that because they also had the documentary of how she was
Mhm.
created. And then growing up, I knew of Linda Carter and I knew of Wonder Woman. And again, Cablevision and regular TV, they will play her episodes on and off, but I never really watched the whole episode. And that's why I'm glad that they have it on HBO Max for me to watch it.
Mhm.
But I knew of her. I've seen her as Wonder Woman. I see her twirl, and I see certain scenes of her and Steve Trevor and her working as a secretary and all of that. And I guess I just cried because she's such a legend.
She
And
has that
she has
feeling
the
because she's
right.
nostalgic, but also this iconic
Right.
figure.
And this is from someone that never fully watched the 70s one, but I truly do appreciate it because of me and my documentary stuff. I do love watching documentaries. But from me watching the documentaries, from me watching her on Supergirl as the president, from me watching her doing that little Wonder Woman promo that Supergirl did for 2017 Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Um yeah, I love that. I think I watched it like maybe 5 times because it was so cool.
Mhm.
And then from watching like at least some time on her episodes. Like I think I've seen not a full episode, but maybe like 15 to 20 minutes of it. And then, cable just then, life happened as a
Yeah,
kid,
thanks.
stuff, doing
Yeah.
homework and all of that. But just watching her in that presence and just seeing her as the first Wonder Woman live action, because they had all the Superman and Batman shows before hers,
Mhm.
because the very first one, I forgot this guy's name that he played Superman for a very long time, and I forgot his name. And
George
then
Reeves.
yes, George
Yeah.
Reeves, and then you had help me out here for Batman. You had
Oh, West, yep, Adam West,
Adam
yeah,
West.
in, like, the
Like
campy 70s?
right.
Yes,
Yeah, my
70s.
memory is not that great, so when it comes to people's names, I'm not just gonna
Shout 'em out,
kind of
yeah.
put it yeah. But, with Adam West and Burt Ward, so they
Mhm.
had theirs, and that was in the '60s, and then Wonder Woman came in the '70s. But I think even before the campy Batman, it was another actor that played as
Yeah.
Batman with the longer horns.
Because they had,
I
like,
just don't
the
remember his
old
name.
black and white one around may have
Mhm.
been around the same time or even no, it actually,
A
it
little
may
bit
have been
after
before
Superman. A
yeah,
little bit after Superman, because once they did that whole hype with Superman, because he was the first hero.
like, big yeah, he
Um,
was, like, the first big superhero,
yeah, he is
like,
the
that's the
first
most
big
iconic.
superhero, so they focused on him more, and then Batman came in, and then Wonder Woman came in. So just to kind of see her in that glory
Mm.
and just really admire her for being the
Mhm.
first Wonder Woman, I'm like, yeah, I cried. And I was like, yo, I feel like I'm a for real Wonder Woman fan if I'm crying at Linda Carter. And the thing is that so many people who did grow up in the 70s and watched her show, they felt the same way. I think I have on Facebook when I did say, because I just went on Facebook for the first time in months to say that I love this movie and Soul, because I watched Soul the following day.
Yeah.
And it was women who were a little bit older than me, because again, I was born in the late 80s. So, them growing up, either they were born in the early 70s and they grew their 80s, that the 80s decade was when they grew up, like
Mhm.
growing up into teenagers and 20 and being in their 20s and stuff, but they're the ones that watched the the Wonder Woman 70s show. And those women that I've met through my mom, because my mom used to watch the show too, but through my mom and through people that I play games with, that that are really, they were really stoked to see, stoked, they were really excited
Yeah. Just be
to see her in the movie, and they shared the same sentiment where it's like, I cried. It was like, I cried too. It was amazing.
It was it was one of those really cool moments, seeing her turn around
Yeah.
like at one like at the was a festival or party?
Yeah, it was a festival.
Yeah, like a festival, and
Mhm.
seeing the line come
And it
down.
was guys too. Like some
Yeah,
guys was commenting on my page, like, did you see the end? And I was like, yes, because I didn't tell them why I cried at the end. But one of my friends, I think is one of my fiance's friends, he was like, did you see the end? I was like, yeah. And like a couple of guys were really appreciative of Linda Carter being in that movie. And that's how you know that Wonder Woman is not just for women, it's for men too. It's for boys and for girls. It's for everybody. It's a general demographic.
yeah, she's one of those across the character boards, and
Mhm.
excuse me, across the board character. Sorry, and
Mhm.
seeing her still looking, I mean, not much older than when she was when she first did the series, like
Yeah,
back
I
in
mean,
the late 70s, early 80s. I want to say, well,
she still looks the same.
yeah, she still looks the same and still had the same
Beautiful
kind of
woman.
like look when she turned around and such like that. You almost expected her to do the twirl, like the way she turned, like
Yeah,
in her
exactly.
her like coat or dress. I'm trying to remember what she was
It
wearing.
was it was like a poncho like coat
Yes,
type of
thank you.
thing.
Yes,
It was
and you
kind of
see
like
it kind of
that.
almost
Yeah.
like twirl a little bit, and you're almost expecting it, but you still appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, she's here, and it was an after credit scene, which we see 1,000 of them. Well, not a
Mhm.
thousand, but you see so many at this time that you
Through
expect.
Marvel, we see a lot of it through
Yeah,
Marvel. For DC, we don't see that much.
yeah,
But
you're like expecting them. So you just stay to the end of the movie now, which sometimes you're rewarded, and get something great. Sometimes you see something that furthers the story. Sometimes you see something that's just cool. This was one of
mhm,
those things that kind of furthered the story a little bit. I mean, or was at least part of the story, but was still a
mhm.
cool little Easter egg moment that I think
But
we
I
needed
feel
at that
like,
time, which is
yeah, and
cool.
I feel like it kind of plays into the story because Diana is still looking for her.
Yeah.
So that's what I was like. I feel like that's gonna play more into if they do Wonder Woman 3, which I hope so, because of how everything kind of ended. Um, I hope they do make it, and I hope she pops up again, and maybe Diana can really see her and ask her questions. And it'll be really interesting to see the Diana, the first Diana and the
Hmm.
modern Diana. That would be really cool to see these two women. And I watched them at DC Dome last year, where it was her, Chris Pine, Christian Wiig, Patty Jenkins, and Gal Gadot herself. They were talking to her, and she was a surprise guest because I think I cried then too. It's like she was a surprise guest because I was like, it would be really cool if Linda Carter popped up. Oh, look who we have here! I was like, oh shit,
And she pops up. Yep.
yeah. So for her to like just I just thought they were doing it as a courtesy because she's the one that kind of paved the way to
Yeah.
have a Wonder Woman live action. You know what I mean? But no, they secretly just popped her right into that movie, and they did it with grace. They did it the right way. She wasn't just there. You know what I mean? They
Hmm.
mentioned her in the middle of the movie, and then we saw her, and it's like what you said, the way that she twirled. It makes it look like she's about to twirl into Wonder Woman, but I feel like the way she twirled was very, very, very regal. Like,
Hmm.
I'm here to help.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
And
it's just a flick of the wrist.
yeah, and that was all she had to do with that. Well,
Hmm.
on that note, we're going to end today's episode. Like I said, we will be coming back with something else, some other topic or such, what have you, at a later date. Uh,
Always tangents. That's how we do things.
but I want to say thank you so very much to Sha-Nee Williams for being on and discussing pretty much all wonderful things Wonder Woman, I guess is a even better way to say it. Thank you so
Yeah.
very much for being on and joining us. I always appreciate it so
Thank you
very
for
much.
having
Thank
me.
you. This has been another episode of The Hungry Bleak. We'll be back at another date with, I don't know what the topic will be. We'll find out once the person is there, because that's what we do. I give the person, I tell them, look, you choose. What do you want to talk about? And then we just go from there because it just seems way more fun. All right. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Enjoy. And I don't know, eat something tasty. I don't know, whatever.
That's
All
what I'm
right.
about to do right now. My stomach is yelling at me.
That's it. Thank you. Have a good day and be well, everyone. Peace.
Hi.